So I was starting to notice that my headlights were looking a little bit foggy. Well, a lot foggy. So I looked into buying new OEM headlights, and they were about $1,200. There were some aftermarket brands for about $300, but I thought I'd try something I've been hearing about for a while, and that's using sandpaper and regular car polishing techniques to see if you can renew these. So I'm going to start out with some 1,000 grit sandpaper and continually move up 5,000, 10,000, and move on to some rubbing compound, no, actually some cutting fluid first with one of these foam polishing kits, and they fit right onto your hand drill. Use some rubbing compound next, and then finally I'll finish up with some good old-fashioned carnauba wax, just regular car wax. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. So, take a look here. You can see in the shade, you can kind of see through it a little bit better, but when the light is directly shining on that headlight, you can't even see through it. And that's bad at night because your lights aren't pointing in a particular direction. They kind of glow because they're refracted in the, in the foggy glass there. So here's the 1,000 grit. And, I'm never quite sure how long to go with this. All I know is that I want to completely remove the surface that's been damaged by the wind and rain and sand over the years. You know what? I think I'd better open this hood so I don't end up scratching the paint there. 1 second. Alright, so like I was saying, you always want to keep your sandpaper wet, and you want to rinse off the extra grit every now and then, just so you're not clogging up your sandpaper and damaging instead of smoothing this out like you want. So I'm going to just go for a few more minutes, I guess, until I start to see a difference. And of course, the risk here is that I end up doing more damage to the headlight, and it ends up looking worse than even before I got started. And that would be a damn shame. I guess if that happens, I'm definitely going to be buying some new headlights. So this is kind of a risk. All right, so here I moved to the 5,000 grit. And I'm confident that I've got off that top layer now. And hopefully, I think actually I am starting to see a little bit of difference. I think underneath the swirl marks as I keep going on, it's starting to look a little clearer. But I won't know for sure till it's all the way done whether or not this was worth it. Okay, so as I mentioned, keep going with smaller and smaller grit sandpaper, and of course that means smoother and smoother sandpaper. So every bit of damage that you end up doing when you start out, hopefully as you go along, you remove some of that damage. Now I've got one of those dual action sanders, but it has a 6-inch head on it. I figured that's too big and heavy to go vertical like this, to hold it up against there. And I wanted a small head so I didn't end up damaging anything around it. What I'm hoping for is at the end of all this, after I apply the wax, all of those swirl marks will be completely hidden. But having said all that, always use a dual action sander when you can, because that sort of eliminates the swirl marks that you get with the orbital sander, like here with my drill. Alright, so this is my 10,000 grit, and if I'm going to start seeing a difference at all, I think it'll be with this level. So let's go ahead and rinse that off, put on the polishing heads, and let's see what we get. Alright, well, wet at least. I'm starting to see a difference here. That's not looking bad, but it's those swirl marks that hopefully with this rubbing compound we'll start getting rid of those swirl marks. Now, if I was polishing the paint on this car instead of the headlight, I would put on a layer of this, let it dry into a hard glaze, and then buff it off. But I think because this is transparent and I want it to be as see-through as possible, I should probably continue with this high-speed orbital polishing technique. Now, I'll admit I'm not 100% sure about that, but hey, what the hell. Sometimes you just toss the dice and see how it turns out. Hopefully this will be for the best, but if not, c'est la vie. Alright, so let's clean this all off, and boy, I'm gonna have to wash that engine compartment. I don't know if you can see it in this video, but there is all kinds of grit and mess all over the top of the engine compartment. Alright, so last step here. Let's continue on with carnauba wax, and once again I'm gonna go by hand first and just put a glaze all over this. And as you know, with the car, you'd want to let this dry for quite a while into a hard haze, and then come back later and wipe it off. But you know, for the sake of this video, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on, let it fill in all the tiny little scratch marks that are there, buff it out, and then we'll take a look at it. If push comes to shove, I can always go back and, you know, do the dry haze method later, but we'll see. Oh, and you'll see that not only did I change to wax, but I'm using a different polishing pad too. It's a much softer pad, not like the hard cutting pad. And as I wipe off the excess, that is a big difference. I won't say I got rid of the swirl marks 100%, but yeah, big improvement here. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with this, and I think it was worth it. In fact, I did that left side before I started filming, and then this right side looks even better, so I may end up going over that other side again. But either way, looks great. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. If you enjoyed this at all, found it helpful, hit like, and I'll see you next time.